When I see on your network celebratory headlines about the rallies and the protests outside, and you actually said protests and rallies. So in light of a protest, if these gatherings happen in light of a protest or a rally, as you say, that rally is to be condoned, but not the president's rally. I mean, it's appalling. You have one person on your network saying that this is a celebration in the streets, a carnival-like atmosphere. There's a guy with a sign that says free hugs. It's beautiful what's happening in the streets. There's music. People are hugging. You celebrate hugging in the context of a protest, but in a Trump rally where we celebrate historic low African-American unemployment, criminal justice reform, HBCUs, that rally's not allowed because guess what, Jim? It doesn't fit the ideological agenda of CNN. Peter Alexander.
Let me ask if I can, Kayleigh, why does the president keep hiring people who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent?
So the president makes hiring decisions based on the fact that he likes to have countervailing viewpoints. I spoke to him this morning about the hiring of John Bolton in particular, and he said, I like to counterbalance my own opinion with individuals that oftentimes have the very opposite opinion of my own. He likes the model of having a team of rivals, like what we saw in President Lincoln's administration. I've been a part of that. I often see rigorous debate, and the president uses his gut and makes the best decision as to how to move forward. So that's what goes into his hiring practices, and I think the team of rivals with President Lincoln worked quite well.
There's obviously value in hiring a team of rivals. It's worked well in the past, but then if you're going to hire rivals, why hire rivals who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent? How does that help
well,
the
sometimes
president
those
govern the
rivals
country?
prove those labels to be true, and that's
He says he hires the
particularly
best
true
people,
in
so
the
does it
that's
reflect on the
particularly
president, Kayleigh?
true in the case of John Bolton, who repeatedly praised the president, then turned. He's been widely criticized by the New York Times for his book. I think John Bolton has proven himself to have those labels as true.
Let me follow up just
Yes.
to Jim Etzell. Just on Juneteenth, Kayleigh, it's important. If I can follow up quickly, just on Juneteenth, if I may.
We're not going to get to everyone in the room. The 20-question rule applies to everyone.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. So I'll take the 20 questions if it applies to everyone. Then I've only done 2 so far. For my third one, I'd like to ask, does the president support Juneteenth as a federal holiday? And yesterday, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal this week, the president was speaking about Juneteenth, and he said that nobody had ever heard of Juneteenth. What does that say about the president's relationship to the black community if he would say that when millions of African Americans in this country commemorate it each year?
Well, look, what I would say is this president's routinely commemorated Juneteenth. The president, what he said is...
He said he learned about it this week.
No, he did not say that. As Secretary Carson emphasized, I talked to the president about the Juneteenth event. I was pleasantly surprised about how much he knew about it, the whole history of it. He did not just learn about Juneteenth this week. That's simply not true. And as to Juneteenth, there were a lot of people who didn't know what Juneteenth was, and Google searches prove that. And you can see, I looked at the chart on Google searches on Juneteenth, and this year they went like this, and that's thanks to President Trump. Yes.
I wanted to ask if the White House is planning to issue an executive order in the coming days to suspend visas for foreign workers, and any detail you can provide in terms of what types of visas, for how long that would last, etc.
So I have no announcements on that front today. I'm aware of the reporting, but no announcements.
Okay, could I follow up quickly and ask if the president plans to take any health precautions at the rally tomorrow?
We are administering hand sanitizer, masks to those who are in attendance should they decide to wear them, and we are taking temperature checks. Daniel.
Hi, Kayleigh. Arizona's seen surging coronavirus cases, as well as Texas and Florida. Does the president think that they should all keep doing what they're doing, or is he concerned about, this rise in cases and how to stop that?
This is a state-led reopening with the assistance of the federal government and our medical experts, so we're regularly consulting with each state. It's their decision as to whether they remain their reopening processes, but we're very confident that they will be able to get it under control. We've had CDC deploy teams to 4 states, and when we see these spikes in cases a lot of times, and we're able to isolate them and stop the spread further. So with the help of the federal government, these states should be able to safely continue reopening, though it is their decision whether to do so.
Does the president think of his niece, Mary Trump's new book that's coming out?
Yeah, so on the Mary Trump book, what I would say is this. I haven't seen the book. The president hasn't seen the book, so I'm not going to sit here and speculate about what it may say or what it may not say. David.
Yeah, given all the hoo-ha over Tulsa, I mean, isn't the president taking a big risk this weekend? Because if things go south on Saturday, isn't that going to make it harder for him to schedule rallies in the future?
Look, I think that we are confident that we can operate
Lại là
safely
một câu
in
hỏi nữa liên
Tulsa.
quan tới cái vấn đề
As
cuộc
I noted at the
tập
beginning of
hợp
this, Governor Stitt
vận
said
động tranh cử.
under 200 people are in hospitals across Oklahoma. Most of those, a lot of those, between the ages of 18 and 35. So we're confident that we can do this safely, and we're very much looking forward to going to Oklahoma.
Why haven't y'all scheduled more rallies? Are y'all waiting to see how things turn out on Saturday?
That would be a question for the campaign. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Kayleigh. Two quick questions. In an interview on NPR on Tuesday, Dr. Fauci said he hasn't spoken to the president in, quote, 2 weeks.
Bạn
Why have
Đinh
they gone so long without
Hương
talking,
Võ nói là
and is this
không có
still a
cụ thể
priority
gì.
for the president?
Này là live rồi, không có
Absolutely,
chủ
it's
đề
still
kịp.
a priority. It's why the task force meets regularly. The president is given that information. The vice president has been leading on the task force, and the president ultimately makes the decisions and is constantly kept up to date with the latest numbers.
And then the second question, obviously, you know, the president is very against violent protest. He's spoken out specifically against anti-fascists who've been responsible for some of this violence. But in terms of his personal ideology, is the president an anti-fascist?
The president is absolutely anti-fascist, but he's against
Câu
all
hỏi
sorts
rất
of
là móc lọ là
lawlessness. He's
Tổng
against
thống là
anarchy.
luôn
He's
luôn chống lại
against
những
what
cái
we've
cuộc
seen in our
biểu tình bạo
streets.
động
He's
như
against the
là
fact
của
that
anti-fascist.
you have in a city
Vậy
block
thì
in
chính
Seattle,
Tổng thống có phải là một
multiple
người
city blocks
anti-fascist hay
taken
không?
over by anarchists.
An-
It's amazing. You
anti-fascist
have the
hay không?
Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best saying, quote, "Our 911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. There have been rapes, robberies, and all sorts of violent acts that have been occurring." He's against fascism. He's against anarchism, and he is for rule of
Ông
law and the American
là
way.
người chống lại bạo động, chống lại
The
vô
EU
chính phủ,
nations are
chống
starting to ease their travel restrictions between their own borders. Is the president planning on rolling back the EU travel restrictions? He said back in May that he'll probably ease them out sometime in the future.
The president knows that the travel restrictions were a very important component to saving lives. Almost 3 million could have perished, and those travel restrictions were instrumental in taking early action and saving American lives. He monitors the data constantly. No plans now as to lifting those.
Hỏi là
But
về
it's
cái vấn đề
ultimately the
dỡ bỏ cái
decision
lịch
of
cấm
the
vận
president. He's guided
du
by
lịch
data
á,
and
thì
the
Tổng thống
safety
vẫn
and
chưa có
health
cái
of
lệnh
the
chưa có
American
cái
people.
dự định sẽ dỡ bỏ lịch cấm vận du lịch để mà bảo vệ đời sống. Đáng lẽ là mất 3 triệu mạng người nếu mà không có cấm cửa sớm.
Does this mean anything for a potential phase 2 deal? Obviously, to stall the coronavirus, but
I have no announcements on that front. I haven't spoken to the president on that specific matter. Yes.
Back to DACA, if you would please. After the Supreme Court decision the other day, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement. I'll just read it briefly. Next, we urge the President, President Trump, to strongly reconsider terminating DACA. Immigrant communities are really hurting now amidst COVID-19, and moving forward with this action needlessly places many families into further anxiety and chaos. Will the President consider the Bishop's appeal of this?
Well, the president said to me, "I'm going to take care of DACA far better than the Democrats ever did." Democrats had 2.5 years to make a deal on DACA. They didn't do it. He wants to take care of these individuals, but it needs to be done in a lawful way, and it needs to be done in accordance with assuring that our border is safe, that it's protected, that we have an end to lawless immigration and MS-13 and the havoc that we've seen wreaked in this country. So he's for a measured
Câu hỏi của
response,
phóng viên
and he's
vừa
offered
rồi đặt ra
deals
vấn
with
đề
Democrats previously that have been
liên quan tới di dân, di
rejected.
trú,
So Democrats
DACA,
really
cái luật
seem to be
DACA.
using the DACA recipients as
Thì
pawns, and that is
ông Tổng thống,
despicable.
câu này trả lời được ông Tổng thống sẽ giải quyết vấn đề đó một cách hợp pháp, hợp lý, an toàn cho biên giới, trong khi đảng Dân Chủ đã có 2 năm rưỡi mà họ không hề làm được cái việc đó.
Would the president consider starting or contributing to a fund for the sick or the bereaved if we see a spike in cases come out of the rally Saturday?
I think that's a hypothetical and that's a speculative question. Yes.
Câu hỏi đặt ra là nếu mà tập hợp tranh cử mà nó làm cho tăng cái lượng lây nhiễm thì sao? Câu hỏi đó mang tính là đạo đức giả và lý thuyết cho nên không trả lời.
When given the opportunity, right now there are 3 debates, and he's happy with that, but certainly if others were proposed, he'd be willing to look at them. And he very much looks forward to those debates. One thing I
Nói
would
là
note,
tổng thống sẵn
and I
sàng
think
gọi
this
là
is very
tranh
important,
cử
especially as we go into the
tranh luận
weekend,
với lại
and we
ứng cử viên.
begin to look at some of the news coverage out there, is that I would encourage all of you to cover the protest in the same way that you covered the rally goers. It's really quite something when you look at this extraordinary video by Media Research Center and Newsbusters, where you have multiple hosts on MSNBC, CNN, and CBS boasting about the, quote, massive crowd. I mean massive. Tens of thousands of people, thousands and thousands, up to 200,000 people, they exuberantly exclaim, but then they have grave concerns about the size of the Trump rallies. You have MSNBC contributors saying social justice over social distancing, but when the president looks to celebrate the accomplishments for minority and communities in this country, our rallies are derided as breeding grounds for coronavirus, while Lawrence O'Donnell celebrates arm-in-arm protests. So I really think that we should have internal consistency here in the way we cover large crowds. We should be guided by science, not cherry-picking science, as I see all too often on the airwaves, especially from CNN.
Cô này đã kết thúc cái buổi họp báo với một cái lời nhắc nhở báo chí rằng là đề nghị quý vị phải tường trình những cái buổi tranh cử của tổng thống tương tự như cái cách mà quý vị tường trình những cái buổi biểu tình hàng nhiều trăm ngàn người vừa qua cho nó công bằng. Đó là cái câu kết thúc của cô ấy liên quan tới cái buổi họp báo ngày hôm nay. Xin chào mọi người.